In this video, I will demonstrate how to use SQL Explorer to quickly write and run SQL queries to analyze, compare, and visualize the performance of the databases in Operations Insights. Let's get started. In Oracle Cloud, click the hamburger menu and then select Observability and Management. Go to Operations Insights and then select SQL Warehouse. From the left navigation, select SQL Explorer. You can use SQL Explorer options to build the SQL query to sort, filter, find, and compare relevant data to optimize the database performance. First, let's define the scope by selecting the SQL Explorer options. In this example, I select the SQL Stats Daily Data object. Next, I select the compartment Operations Insights. Optionally, I can select the specific database targets, or I can select one or more tags to narrow the query to only the resources with specific tags for resource keys and values. To expand or collapse the scope filters, I click the Scope Filters icon. Now that I've defined the scope, let's build the SQL query. The SQL Explorer interface provides a template I can use to build SQL Select statements. To build queries, I can select attributes from the Data Object panel using the Actions menu to insert the attributes into the query. Or I can type directly in the query template and use the autocomplete feature to insert the suggested SQL syntax. This saves time and keystrokes. All data objects contain columns that are divided into measures and dimensions. The measures are numeric values that are often used in aggregations or computations. In this example, the measure columns in the SQL Daily Stats data object come directly from the original data source $SQL Stats. Dimensions typically are non-numeric values that are used to group or summarize the measure value of the aggregations. To assist in building queries, the measure columns are pre-configured and pre-joined to entity, SQL, and time dimension columns. To add a column from the attributes list to your SQL query, click on the desired attribute column name and then click on the vertical ellipse or the Actions menu to the right of the attribute. Next, select Add to Query and then select where to add the column. You can add dimensions to the Select, Where, Group By, or Order By clauses. You can add measures to the Select or Order By clauses. The data object columns can be pinned to the top of the list for easy reference. Now, let's take a look at how to open a saved query. Go to the Actions menu to find a list of saved queries. In this example, I click to open the saved query demo video. Let's look at the details of this query. You can hover over the attribute columns to view how each computed measures uses the sum aggregate function. Next, to build a query, I can click on any of the column attributes to add them to the select statement. If I want to compare multiple databases, then I can add each database display name. I can also add all 4 total computed columns introduced by this saved search. And then click Run to query the database. The error explains I am missing a Group By element. If you are using an aggregate function in your select query, then you must have a Group By clause. To resolve this error, I can add a Group By clause that includes the column expressions. Since all other columns are aggregate functions, display name must be added to the Group By clause. The Group By statement is often used with aggregate functions to group the result set by one or more columns. Next, click Run to apply the query again. Now the query works. Let's look at how to visualize the query results. After the SQL query is created and runs against the database, I can apply visualizations to the data. Table is always the default visualization because it applies to all databases. The first 5 columns display automatically. In this example, the pie chart visualization requires selecting a value column from the drop-down list and a color by column. The value is the measure that's compared to the dimension values from the color by column. In this example, I select total buffer gets from the value drop-down list, and then I select display name from the color by column. Next, I add the legend to the bottom of the page. Now, I see a pie chart that compares the total buffer gets between the eLoyalty and the eRewards databases over the last 7 days. To extend the data exploration, I can switch the visualization value to any of the other computed total columns to compare the data. Now, let's switch visualizations to compare the databases on the computed measures over time. To compute totals by both database and day, I add rollup time UTC to the select and group by clauses, and then click Run. Now, the line chart visualization requires selecting an x-axis column, so I select rollup time UTC from the drop-down list. This shows the results for the last 7 days with a separate line for each database. Now, let's switch the y-axis between the computed columns to quickly compare the databases over time for the selected measure attributes. In this video, I demonstrated how to use SQL Explorer to compare multiple databases on several important measures of SQL activity. I can apply data visualizations to the saved SQL queries and then create widgets that I can publish on enterprise dashboards. I can also publish other similar widgets from other OCI observability and management services to dashboards for a comprehensive, dynamic, and real-time view of the enterprise data.